Right now, labour exporters have raised concern of a reduction in issuance of passports. And Jacob Siminyu, the spokesperson for the Ministry of Internal Affairs, says this passport issuance has been reduced from 1,500 daily to only 500. Now, Ronnie Mukundane, the Uganda Association for External Recruitment Agency spokesperson, says that before the second COVID-19 lockdown, which was lifted at the start of August, they have had expressed concern that even 1,500 passports issued out every day were not enough. Let's have a look at this report.
The Immigration Department has reduced the issuance of passports. Jacob Siminyu, the spokesperson from the Ministry of Internal Affairs, says that passport issuance has been reduced from 1,500 daily to only 500. This has, however, raised concern among the external recruitment agencies and labour exporters. Ronnie Mukundane, the Uganda Association for External Recruitment Agency spokesperson, says that before the second COVID-19 lockdown, which was lifted at the start of August, they had expressed concern that even 1,500 passports issued out every day were not enough. However, Siminyu insists that the ministry shall not bow down to any pressure and will not allow anyone to crowd at the head office or regional outlet because they must manage the COVID-19 standard operating procedures. For people with emergencies such as medical and scholarships, Siminyu says they have to write to the commissioner so that their issues can be addressed as early as possible. In July, Deputy Coordinator for Anti-Human Trafficking at the Ministry of Internal Affairs, Agnes Igoe, indicated that more than 500 people, majorly girls and women, leave Uganda going for domestic jobs in the Arab world. Benson Mumbere, Smart.
All right, in that particular regard, you can clearly see how concerns are coming up to the Ministry of Internal Affairs in regards to that particular aspect. Now, concerning Ronnie Mukundane, the Uganda Association for External Recruitment Agencies in Uganda, says that before the pandemic, they were actually calling upon the government to increase the number. However, the government just decreased the number away from 1,500 to a whooping 500. That is roughly 1,000 that was already decreased in that particular regard. Now, in July, Deputy Coordinator of Anti-Human Trafficking at the Ministry of Internal Affairs, Agnes Igoe, indicated that more than 500 people, majorly girls and women, leave Uganda going for domestic jobs in the Arab world. Will the government increase or will continuously decrease more and more? But wow, 1,500 passports being actually made each and every day, and up to now I haven't got one. I think I should definitely get myself going to make sure I tap into my passport. All right, now moving on, Kenya has appealed to Uganda to sign EU Trade Pact. Now, Betty Maina, Kenya's Cabinet Secretary for Trade, says the joint approach would not only help Kenya and Uganda's trade with the EU, but will also be a basis for a stronger East African community. Now, she was speaking at the ongoing Uganda-Kenya Agribusiness Exhibition in Mombasa. Take a look at this report.
Kenya has again appealed to Uganda for a joint strategy on accessing the European market through the stalled European Union and the East African Community Economic Partnership Agreement. Kenya also wants to partner with Uganda in negotiating a trade deal with the US. Betty Maina, the Kenya's Cabinet Secretary for Trade, says a joint approach would not only help Kenya and Uganda's trade with the EU, but will also be a basis for a strong East African community. Maina also thinks that if a deal was struck by the two nations with the EU, it would also encourage other East African community member states to join in and make the agreement a fully East African community deal. She says poor countries will overcome challenges of accessing international markets if they make a joint approaches, saying that to overcome these market access challenges, it is important for both Kenya and Uganda to present these issues jointly or under the East African Community Framework.
Now, according to Kenya's Cabinet Minister for Trade, that is Maina, actually comes out and says poorer countries will only overcome overcome challenges of accessing international markets if they make joint approaches, saying that to overcome these markets access challenges, it is quite important for Kenya and Uganda to present these issues jointly or under the East African Community Framework. So clearly, what is Uganda waiting for to go on board for this particular one? Now, moving on, cattle rustlers have raided General Guti's farm they actually marked off with 40 cows. And speaking about the raid, Guti's relative Jacob Yeno said the rustlers were many and armed with guns. Now, Captain Edwin Mawanda, the UPDF 3rd Division spokesperson, confirmed the raid on General Guti's farm. Take a look at this report.
Cattle rustlers have for the third time raided the farm of General Andrew Guti, the General Court Martial Chairman, at Meadow with 40 cows in Napak district. The rustlers stormed their sub-county on Tuesday, which left everyone wondering about their courage. 2 months ago, rustlers raided the general's farms and made off with 130 cows, but they were recovered by the army. In January, the warriors touched Oguti's orange garden and broke into his home, where they attempted to steal a tractor. Speaking about the raid, Oguti's relative Jacob Yeno said the rustlers were many and were armed with...
And early this year, General Guti's farm was already robbed of over 130 cattle that were later on recaptured by the UPDF army, who actually recovered them, the 130 cows. But however, in January, the warriors touched Guti's orange garden and broke into his home, where they attempted to steal a tractor as well. Now, this time around, they've actually robbed up 40 cows, and the relative Jacob Yeno did say the rustlers were many and were armed with guns. So clearly, they were ready for the mission in that regard. Now, moving on, 200 have been conned in online job scams in Uganda, and at least 280 Ugandans have lost more than 180 million shillings in an online job scam. Now, Agnes Igoye, the coordinator of anti-human trafficking at Ministry of Internal Affairs, is leading investigations to bring the culprits to justice. Take a look at this story.
According to some of the receipts which have already been obtained by Agnes Igoya, the coordinator of the anti-human trafficking at the Ministry of Internal Affairs, and her team, the least amount each of the victims paid was 600,000 shillings on the promise that they were to fly out of the country in 2 weeks. Igoya and her team have since established that people fell victim because they were promised a monthly salary of 1.5 million shillings on top of a free visa. Many of the victims have indicated that they were working in a local companies and organizations but were laid off during the first COVID-19 lockdown. Igoya has called upon all the victims to come out and record statements that would help during the prosecution of the suspects. CID team are now working with the Ministry of Internal Affairs to have the culprits arrested wherever they are. She advised the youth that if they are to go abroad, they should first cross-check with the Ministry of Gender about the licensed labor companies. Grace Akulo, the CID director, in her 2020 report indicates that 15.9 billion shillings.
All right, now MPs in Uganda are set to endorse taxes on passengers that are flying out of Uganda. Now, leave on the fact that the job scams have actually been increasing in the country. But now, moving on in that regard, now Parliament is set to adopt a raft of recommendations to revive the economy currently battered by the COVID-19 pandemic. And a key among is implementation of a tourism development levy. And to make this so, MPs have endorsed tax on passengers flying out of Uganda. Have a look at this report.
According to Mwine Mpaka, the chairperson of the Committee on the Trade and Industry, the committee proposes a levy of $10 to be charged on each ticket for every person who departs from Uganda by air transport. The House also adopted the manner in which the proceeds should be shared, with 70% being proposed to cushion private sector players in the tourism sector. The 70% will be managed by Postbank Uganda, and the Ministries of Finance and Tourism will formulate a plan to guide access to the funds. 20% is proposed to finance the aggressive marketing drive by the Uganda Tourism Board, and the 10% reverts to the taxman, who is also in charge of collecting the funds. Uganda Wildlife Authority was also assigned with the role of talking domestic tour operators out of exorbitant fees charged to local tourists, which the committee said is counterproductive. Parliament also asked government to suspend the 50% property rate for this financial year on condition that landlords forfeit lockdown rent, which landlords continue to demand, driving arcade workers, bars and restaurant owners out of business.
All right, now 20% is proposed to finance the aggressive market drive by the Uganda Tourism Board, which is the UTB, and the 10% reverts to the taxman, who also is in charge of collecting the funds. Now 70% will be managed by the Post Bank Uganda, and the Ministry of Finance and Tourism will formulate a plan to guide access to the funds. Now clearly, if I told you a traveler in Uganda and you are used to going abroad, get ready to pay $10 as tax to clearly before you set off from the airport, that is the Entebbe International Airport, to go overseas for maybe vacation or business. All right, now moving on, Uganda's exports to Kenya have grown by 297% in 15 years to 2.2 trillion. Now, Uganda's Minister of Trade, Industry and Cooperative, Francis Mwembesa, says this represents a growth of 297.56%. Now, Minister Mwembesa made the remarks during the opening of Kenya-Uganda Agribusiness Symposium and Exhibition. Have a look.
Uganda's Minister of Trade, Industry and Cooperative, Francis Mwembesa, has revealed that since the start of the East African Community Customs Union in 2005, Uganda's exports to Kenya have increased tremendously from US dollars 155.28 million recorded in financial year 2005 to over US dollars 617.34 million. This represents a growth of 297.56%. On the other hand, Uganda's imports increased from US dollars 422.76 million recorded in financial year 2005 to 2006 to over US dollars 848.26 million by 2020 to 2021. The minister added that Kenya and Uganda are strong economic partners where both depend on each and are strategic export markets. Mwembesa said both Uganda and Kenya have reported several non-tariff barriers that affects smooth flow of bilateral trade, saying there have been several efforts to address them, the latest being the bilateral ministerial meeting held in April 2021.
All right, now Mwembesa said both Uganda and Kenya have reported several non-tariff barriers that affect smooth flow of bilateral trade, saying there have been several efforts to address them. However, the latest being the bilateral ministerial meeting that was held in April 2021, and clearly that would say that the minister did also add that Kenya and Uganda are strong economic partners where both depend on each and strategic export markets. And now on to the next one. Makerere University secretary faces arrest over unpaid science money. Now, Frank Chitumba, the former director of Makerere University's Directorate for Information and Communication Technology Support, accuses Chiranda of inordinate delay to pay him science fees following an industrial court ruling issued nearly 3 months ago. Now, through Gem and Company advocates, Chitumba contends that to date, Makerere University has failed to pay him more than 122 million despite an industrial court ruling. Have a look at this report.
Frank Chitumba, the former director of Makerere University's Directorate of Information and Communication Technology Support, has petitioned court for an arrest warrant against the university secretary Yusuf Chiranda. Sources say Chitumba accuses Chiranda of inordinate delay to pay him science fees following an industrial court ruling issued nearly 3 months ago. Through Gem and Company advocates, Chitumba contends that to date, Makerere University has failed to pay him more than 122 million despite an industrial court ruling. Kitumba was employed by the university on a 5-year contract effective December 1st, 2012, subject to renewal upon satisfactory performance following an appraisal. His contract expired and was extended for 3 years and later 2 months up to April 30th, 2018, without any performance appraisal conducted by the university. This didn't go down well with Kitumba on grounds that he legitimately expected employment following a fair and prompt appraisal leading to the renewal of his contract due to his satisfactory performance, which wasn't the case. The court records also show that when the government in 2010 enhanced salaries for science teachers in all public universities by 30%, all the staff of universities' Directorate of Information and Communication Technology support were left out, prompting them to petition the Public Service Ministry.
All right, now in that particular regards, the court has recorded that the government in 2010 enhanced salaries for science teachers in all public universities by 30%. All the staff of universities' Directorate of Information and Communication Technology support were left out, prompting them to petition the Public Service Ministry. And this did go well with Kitumba on grounds that he legitimately expected employment following a fair and prompt appraisal leading to the renewal of his contract due to his satisfactory performance, which wasn't the case in that particular reason. All right, now we head to the NSSF report as new board pledges to steer NSSF to greater heights. Now, Dr. Peter Chimbowa, the new NSSF board chairman, was speaking on during the function to inaugurate the new 10-member board during a function that was held at Kampala Serena Hotel recently. Take a look at this report.
The newly appointed board has pledged to play well their oversight role to ensure the National Social Security Fund is steered to greater heights. Dr. Peter Chimbowa, the new NSSF board chairman, pledged to be open-minded and curious to ask the right questions, saying they will ensure transparency and accountability as all individuals and teams within the fund. He said they will also plan to remain very adaptive so that they can move with the times, but also ahead of the times, since they are in the post-pandemic era and artificial intelligence has become part of our lives. Chimbowa said the main vision of the fund in the next 3 years of the new board will be reshaping the fund's portfolio to respond better to the business environment, prioritize and leverage on technology, data and analytics platforms so as to serve members better through problem solving. The NSSF Managing Director, Richard Byarugaba, applauded the outgoing board for a job well done. Byarugaba explained that the fund is currently undergoing a 4th milestone since it was set up, which he identified as NSSF Bill 2019, that he said once enacted into law will usher in significant reforms, especially around the removal of the contributions eligibility threshold, voluntary contributions over and above 15%, and midterm benefits.
Now, the NSSF Managing Director, Richard Byarugaba, applauded the outgoing board for a job well done and clearly setting a record for the new board to clearly see whether it will put on board its aspirations as well. Now, Byarugaba explained that the fund is currently undergoing a 4th milestone since it was set up, which he identified as NSSF Bill 2019, and he said once enacted into law will usher into significant reforms, especially around the removal of the contributions eligibility threshold, threshold voluntary contributions over and above 15% and midterm benefits. So we do wait and see whether the 10 men, that is the 10 board, will actually do something. The 10-member board will actually do something ahead of NSSF. Now, moving on. The Uganda Airlines is set to make 3 flights per week to Dubai starting next month. And while addressing a press conference recently, the Uganda Airlines acting CEO Jennifer Bamturaki said the maiden flight to Dubai had been scheduled to an earlier date but was delayed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And Bamturaki and her team are said to be targeting migrant workers, the business class, among others who travel to the Middle East through the Dubai route. Let's have a look at this report.
Uganda Airlines has announced that starting October 2021, it will be conducting 3 flights to Dubai per week in an extended service to its loyal passengers. Addressing a press conference recently, Uganda Airlines acting CEO Jennifer Bamutarachi said that the flight to Dubai had been scheduled at an earlier date but was delayed due to COVID-19 pandemic. Bamutarachi and other team.
Now, what we do understand is by the October 1st, 2021, the Dubai
Smart 24, driving business.